In the year 1899, in a fog-covered town called Saint-Benoît, nestled deep within the grey valleys of northern France, there stood a forgotten clock shop at the corner of Rue des Cendres. Its windows were blackened with soot, its gears rusted, its walls whispering of a time when people still believed that clocks could hold souls. The clockmaker's name. Even after the ledger burned and the crater cooled, the name Laurent would not rest. Travelers who passed the ruined square whispered it like a benediction. Émile Laurent, the man who bargained with time. Some said his name had been inked into the margins of old parish records. Others swore they heard someone muttering it under breath when a watch refused to tick. In the small registry at the town hall, an official clerk found entries written in different hands over decades, all leading to a single line: Laurent, debtor of hours. People began to affix tiny tokens to doorways, a tarnished gear, a bent pin, a scrap of lace. They believed that naming him aloud kept the story honest and kept whatever it was that had taken Elodie at bay, if only by a hair's breadth. The Museum of Stoppage's word reached a curious antiquarian in Lyon who collected oddities: clocks that refused to tick, watches that wound only backward, theatre props with a stitched smile. He travelled to Saint-Benoît and persuaded the town to let him remove relics from the crater. Fragments of the mother clock, a cracked porcelain cheek, the leather ledger's last page, promising to enshrine them in a small museum of temporal oddities. The display opened with a flourish, but visitors left pale and silent. Some claimed the exhibit sighed when the room grew still. Children dared each other to press their faces to the glass. The antiquarian, who kept his own pocket watch chained to a ring around his neck, grew more restless by the day. The exhibit seemed to whisper back to him in the language of lost hours. The lineage of quiet families in Saint-Benoît kept an unspoken ledger of their own. Those connected by blood to anyone who had touched Laurent's shop, by marriage, birth, or a stray favor, found themselves compelled to pass down small rules. Never set a pocket watch on the windowsill at midnight. Never say again when speaking of the dead. Children learned to look away from mirrored glass at certain hours. A lineage of quiet formed. Midwives who hummed an extra note. Bakers who left a small loaf at the square's edge. Teachers who taught the hour that should be ignored. It was not superstition alone, but an inheritance of restraint, an attempt to keep the world spinning without asking the wrong question of time. The antiquarian's descent. The antiquarian who had opened the Museum of Stoppages kept a secret ledger of his own, entries of visitors who left different than they arrived, notations in a cramped, shaking hand. As months became years, his dreams filled with the hollow tone of a human chest behind glass and the soft metallic laughter of gears. He began to tinker at night with a small contraption made from museum scraps, attempting to coax a relic into speaking plainly. One stormy evening he wound his chain watch before sleep, and in the mirror he saw a reflection that was not his own. A pale child with the raven hair of Elodie, standing behind him, smiling as if at home. He woke with the taste of rust on his tongue, and the feeling that something had accepted his bargain, the porcelain promise. In the final season of his life, the antiquarian performed a quiet ceremony in the dim museum. He placed his own chain watch within the glass heart of a carefully reassembled fragment from the mother clock, and spoke a promise aloud, naming Elodie as one might name a god. The gears around the heart spun, hesitated, then accepted the warm weight. For a night the museum brimmed with a soft music, like the turning of crank toys. Visitors who came afterward noticed a faint presence, a child's laughter threaded through the ticking, comforting and terrible at once. When the antiquarian died shortly after, townsfolk argued whether he had freed Elodie or merely moved her to a new place of residence. Either way, a new hush settled over Saint-Benoît, and the pocket watches that had once wound backward now kept a slower, stranger time. The hollow heart. The attic had fallen silent since the burning of the ledger. Dust hung in the air like ghosts of forgotten seconds. In the middle of the room, Elodie's porcelain body sat upright, her chest cracked open like a flower that had bloomed too late. Inside, where her heart should have been, a hollow gear spun endlessly, grinding softly, searching for something that no longer existed. Monsieur Laurent stood beside her, his hands trembling, eyes reflecting both awe and despair. He whispered her name, but the sound vanished into the ticking void. Each rotation of the hollow gear echoed through the house, syncing with his failing heartbeat. Somewhere beneath the floorboards, the clocks began to stutter, unsure whether to move forward or stop entirely. The visitor at midnight. Rain returned to Saint-Benoît. Its sound merged with the uneven chime of broken clocks. At midnight, someone knocked on the Laurent door. 3 soft knocks, measured, deliberate. When Monsieur Laurent opened it, no one stood there. Only a silver pocket watch resting on the steps, engraved with the words, "Time returns what love refuses." As he lifted it, the air grew heavy. The house inhaled, the walls flexed like lungs. A faint voice echoed from every clock. "You cannot unmake what you have built." The visitor was gone, but his message lingered, etched into every heartbeat of Saint-Benoît. The clocks stopped at dawn. Every pendulum froze mid-swing, as if time itself had inhaled and forgotten to exhale. In that suspended moment, Elodie's eyes flickered. A single tear, clear as glass, rolled down her porcelain cheek and crystallized before touching the ground. Laurent fell to his knees, whispering apologies to a being he once shaped, not loved. As the tear struck the floor, the entire shop shuddered. Mirrors cracked. The clocks began melting, gears sagging like wax, glass dripping like sorrow. In the reflection of a warped clock face, Laurent saw not his own face, but Elodie's, smiling faintly, forgiving, fading. The bell at Rue des Cendres. By noon, the townsfolk gathered outside the silent shop. No smoke, no movement, only the faint toll of a bell that hadn't rung in years. From the shop window, they saw the shadows of 2 figures, one standing, one seated, frozen like statues. The sound of the bell deepened, resonating not through the air but through memory. The mayor whispered that the house had finally kept time correctly, for the first and last time. The people crossed themselves, retreating slowly as fog swallowed the Rue des Cendres once again, the silence between seconds. Years passed. The shop decayed into legend. Children whispered of the clockmaker who built a Daughther out of sorrow and steel. Some claimed that at midnight, if one walked past Rue des Cendres, they could hear 2 faint ticks, one of brass, one of heart, blending in eternal harmony. In the ruins, only the hollow frame of Elodie remained, her cracked porcelain face turned toward the broken ceiling, as if watching time leak through. Beside her sat the silver watch, still ticking. Inside, a small gear pulsed rhythmically, neither dead nor alive, just waiting for the next hour to begin again.